Best of r/malicious compliance episode 74. Subscribe for edit videos daily. Hey all, glad to be here. A bit of background is necessary to sweeten the compliance. I work in the hospitality industry in a small town fed by tourists. This sadly leaves issues for businesses trying to find reliable employees. To try and incentivize those people to find work in town, every business is raising its wages to keep people who actually do their job. Even the Golden Arch Burger chain starts at $9 an hour. So, when I got hired here, I went through all the paperwork, signed all the documents, reviewed all the policies of a business trying to act far more professional than it actually was. I was given policy booklets, signed that I read them, and set on my way through training. All is well for a while, until the HR staff was cut. Now, as it goes in this particular business, any responsibility that could be taken on by the general manager is given to the general manager. He runs housekeeping, maintenance, grounds work, scheduling, dining/wait staff, hiring and firing. If you can think of an area behind the scenes, he runs it. He is also my direct boss, so I am a good noodle. I work the night shift, solo. I actually show up on days I'm scheduled. I show up on time. I do my job, even. I have received nothing but positive reviews from my boss and his boss. But we are not here to celebrate these achievements. We are here to celebrate what happened when I told him no. In the summer of last year, I was out of town picking up the GF from the airport, after she had a wonderful trip to Belize. We had a good weekend doing the things couples like to do, when right after eating my favorite pizza, I felt my stomach rejecting the food I had eaten. The next dozen hours were brutal. I emptied more out of me than I thought my body could hold. Obviously I was sick. I could barely pack my bags the next morning, let alone actually move them to the car. It's still bright and early, not long past dawn, when I realize I'm gonna need a day to recover. So, I contact my boss. I lay it out for him, and for the first time in over a year and a half, let him know that my shift that night needs to be covered. The policy book I had read like a good employee told me that calling in sick is okay. Calling in sick for one day doesn't require a note, only the second and consecutive days would. I wouldn't have to go to a doctor for a note because it's only one day, so I can rest and come back in good as new. But I wouldn't be posting here if I got off work that easy, would I? He told me I'd either have to work or I'd have to get a doctor's note. After 18 months or more, never calling in sick, covering every shift I was asked to, he picks now to treat me like a child. Alright, may as well. So I go to one of those urgent care clinics. Nurse gives me a 2-minute consultation, sends me out with prescription strength anti-nausea meds and 3 copies of a doctor's note, because you're damn right I'm keeping my own copy. I read the note, and it states, OP, is sick and cannot perform job duties for 5 days. Signed, Doc. Ha, why not? I shoot him a picture of the note and radio silence. Now, this man works 9-5. He does not work nights. I have another co-worker who does my job on my days off, so I expect him to have been called in that night. After the radio silence, and since I was still up that night anyway, I prepared my 2 weeks notice just in case they're going to try and make me work anyway. I go into work with a copy of the doctor's note and my notice to meet people at the shift change. To my surprise, I saw my boss, and he looked like shitty. He looks at me, confused as to why I'm here. Before he spoke, I handed him the note, not my notice yet, and said, "Glad you're here, and hi, receptionist. Boss, here's a copy of my doctor's note. Figured I'd drop this off in person since you didn't reply to me in the last 8 or so hours. Can I go home and rest now? Boss, I can't believe you were actually sick. Guess I'll see you next week. Receptionist, hope you feel better." And with that I left. The next several days were spent recovering, sleeping an ungodly amount. I am really glad I listened to the doc. The aftermath of this whole event isn't very exciting, but it was satisfying. The next Tuesday, a week after the incident, I was pulled into the office. I was asked why I requested so many days from the doc, how it hurt him to have to fill all those nights, etc. I gave him the honest reply, Doc didn't ask how long I needed. I just asked for a doctor's note and I was handed that. I still have a couple copies if you lost one. He started to protest, saying I should have corrected Doc. but I stopped him. "Get a copy of the policy book, will ya?" He did. Turn to the attendance policy and read out the portion about sick days and doctor's notes. Boss, oh me, yup. So if you keep pestering me about this, I'm going to go to the owner, his boss, and ask to be compensated for the cost of that clinic visit and ask that you be reprimanded for not following your own policies. Or you can let me do my job and not treat me like a child going forward. That spells the end of that conversation, and I wasn't bothered again. Still gave my 2 weeks soon after. Cause screw that guy. Edit for clarification. Thank you. Next. Happened 20 years ago. So I have a cottage on an island in an extremely long and narrow bay. When the winds blow strongly from the east or the west, the waves can get pretty big and it can be a rough ride. Making the crossing one stormy and rainy day in a 16-foot tinny with a 20 HP on the back and my girlfriend at the time, now my wife. I take the waves at an angle which makes the ride a little longer but a lot drier, especially for the person at the front. My girlfriend is pointing towards the cottage which it appears we are not heading towards. I yell to her that the waves are too big and I need to take them at an angle. She doesn't understand and yells to me to just steer towards the cottage because it is raining and she is getting soaking wet while pointing to our destination emphatically. So I turn the boat towards where we need to go and a huge wave hits the bow, drenching her. Her screams are muffled out when a second wave hits her. I then correct my course and eventually get to the dock where she is hopping mad and wet. "Look at me, I'm soaked. You did that on purpose. You told me to steer that way, so I did. Thank you." Next. So let me preface this by saying I think coffee is disgusting. It smells horrible and tastes worse. But software techs seem to run on the stuff. Way back in the day, I took a job at a place I wasn't entirely sure about, largely because if I didn't, I was going to lose my unemployment benefits. Not an auspicious start. Immediately I was treated as the secretary by all the tech bros, even though I was responsible for keeping the entire place running. Pro tip: don't denigrate the person responsible for getting the critical things you need. Ahem. This included making coffee for the office. I told the manager I don't drink coffee. I have zero idea how to make it. He said it's part of your job. Do it anyway. Well, okay then. The first batch was like coffee flavored dirt syrup. The next day, it was like coffee flavored tea. Strangely enough, after a few days of this, they said not to worry about it. The coffee drinkers would just do it themselves. I did cross-stitch a "heaven smells like burnt ass" sampler for one of my co-workers after an amusing text exchange on the merits/demerits of coffee. Hell, he still has it 10 years later. D. Thank you. Next. A couple of years back my college switched to Office 365 and ordered t-shirts to give out to mark the occasion. The issue with this is they ordered a t-shirt for each and every student. Of course that left us with a couple thousand unclaimed t-shirts, and really made me appreciate how wisely my tuition money was being spent. I work at a computer help desk here, so it became our job to let anyone coming in for computer help know that they could take as many of the leftover shirts as they wanted, because at this point my college was just trying to get rid of them. My co-workers and I began asking why not just donate the t-shirts because it's been about a year and we still have t-shirts to hand out. Their answer: since the t-shirts have the school's logo on them, they do not want homeless people, or other poor people, walking around with their logo. They didn't put it as plainly as that, but that was effectively the reason. My school is a prestigious business school, so they care heavily about their image. So, since they had no issue with students taking dozens of the shirts, nothing was stopping me from stuffing 5 or so shirts into my bag every day as I was leaving work. Until I amassed a mound of t-shirts with my school's very nice logo on them to then donate myself. Thank you. Next. So I recently had my contract with the school I provided music lessons for severed. There were a lot of fishy and semi-illegal circumstances with how and why I was terminated, but that's not the point. Even though I no longer served as an independently contracted teacher, I was allowed to retain students that I tutored there. When the administrator fired me, she told me I'd need to email her my schedule of students I tutor and keep her updated on that. The school also has a policy that visitors must obtain a visitor pass anytime they're on campus. Makes sense. Being the bitter as shat I am and knowing I was terminated unfairly and that they were screwing over my former students, I decided to have some fun with this. I emailed her my initial schedule. One of my students is extremely flaky. Her mom pays me for about 10 sessions of tutoring, and I keep track of them. She cancelled on me 6 times in 2 weeks. Each time, I sent the admin an email to inform her I wouldn't be on campus that day. She got so annoyed by my emails that she told me to stop letting her know unless I was needing her to tell students I wasn't going to be there. Next, I made sure to stop by for my daily visitor pass every day. I'm well known at that school, grew up going there, graduated valedictorian. The current administrator signed my diploma. Everyone knows me. So the first time I stopped in for a visitor pass, she just stared at me and asked if I needed something. I smiled sweetly and requested a pass. Rinse, lather, repeat. They got so annoyed they started making exceptions for if the tutoring was after school, before school, etc. Until they finally said I don't need one because scanning my license and giving me a daily pass is a huge inconvenience. TL. Doctor, got fired, played by the rules, was told to stop because it's annoying. Yay bureaucracy. Thank you. Next. This tale contains human waste. Tradesmen and contractors do some horrendous things to each other. As long as it's funny, it might not be funny at the time, but as long as it's going to be funny later, it's all good. If they are mates as well, the stakes get higher. If they are best mates, all bets are off. This day, 2 best mates are working together. I'd been at this electrical company for a while when my best mate, Simon Hearty Hart, had recently joined. It would be a memorable day. Story. We got the phone call at around 2 p.m. Urgent attention to sewage pump station number 5. Motor tripping on overload. You know what a macerator is, so no need to go into it. A macerator is a sewer pump. It's like a regular water pump, but with teeth. It chews all the solids before sending them down the pipes. Solids can get caught in the pipes and cause blockages, which can cause issues for pipes and motors. Yes, solids means exactly what you think it means. And paper, and rubbish. Anything people can flush. Driving over to the empty paddock it was in, I told him that this station was going to be refurbished soon. New pipe work, some new controls, pull the motor up and get it serviced. Usual stuff. We'd arrived and donned all the appropriate safety gear, followed all the site rules. Working on this gear regularly, we'd both had all the needles too, as per the schedule, about 50 of them. The shed containing station number 5 was about 3 meters x 3 meters and 2 meters tall, 10 feet x 10 feet x 7 feet. We checked the controls and motor, and found nothing wrong electrically. Must be a blockage causing the motor to stop. The above ground PVC, plastic, pipe work was all glued together, and we're not plumbers, so I think it's time to go. Hearty has a brilliant idea, one that I'd thought of and rejected. I'd learned to look very closely at PVC pipe before turning a pump on. While looking things over, I'd seen a crack in a pipe joiner. It looked like it was a kind of new hairline fracture. Almost invisible. Yes. What you are thinking. Yep. Hearty, go outside and hit the manual start a few times. Bump it, turn on/off. I've done that to clear blockages before. Me, there's a crack in that joiner mate. Shit could go sideways. Hearty, looking at the joiner, not looking close enough now. Go and hit the switch. I'll watch the pressure gauge. Me, mate, have a closer look. If that thing lets rip, the shit'll hit the fan. Hearty, looks closer, yet so far away, you're dreamin'. Nothing there mate. Come on, it's nearly knock off. I grasp him by the shoulders, look into his eyes, then make sure his goggles are on nicely, his face shield nicely down. Hearty, pushing me away, fuck off would ya? Me, outside, at the switch. Mate, cover your mouth and nose. And mate, remember, this shit is on you. Malicious compliance. I flick the switch to manual start. Nothing. I turn it off. On again. Nothing. Off. Hearty, leave it on a bit longer. On. Nothing. Then, crack. Whoosh. Big whoosh. At big whoosh, I turn it off. Fall out. Going to the door, I see Hearty. Standing there, dripping. A hand under the face shield, over his face. All covered in small bits of shit. And water. Because it's mostly water in this pit at the moment. But still has solids. There's paper and solids all round the inside of the shed. It looks exactly how you pictured it would. I smile at him, silently. Hearty, fuck off. Aftermath. I called the plumbers, because they'd have to fix it. The renovation just started early. Also, they needed to see this shit. Word for word, you need to come see this shit. Other dialogue from Hearty was not included. It has too many C words. I had a glorious 30 minutes hosing Hearty down. Laughing and hosing and laughing. Hearty made a small rainbow. It was very pretty. Hearty always checks pipes now. The plumbers also added a letter to the front of his nickname. We're still best mates. He called me, not long after having his first baby. Mate, guess what I'm doing? Changing a shitty nappy. Best mates, hey, a precious relationship. Comma, thank you for reading. Comma, glossary, macerator, nom nom nom. You're dreamin', you've got to be kidding. This was famously used in the 1997 Australian film, The Castle. Poignant and funny. Knock off, end of shift. If you finish your shift early, you have an early knock. Egg. On Fridays, when the work phone rings 10 minutes before knock off, say, early knock as you leave. Thank you. Next. I always love reading posts here and I just realized I am one of you. A little background. I graduated 2019 and took a job as a groundswalker at the uni I graduated from. I quickly noticed a lot of red flags in management, but hey, beggars can't be choosers. I knew I'd be working hard, but that's okay. We need golf carts to get around and carry our tools. So I start the job and am given a cart with no windscreen, which is fine, but when you start at 5 AM it is freezing. I am given a zone and of a couple acres to take care of, dead center of campus. I get a couple tools and end up sharing a storage unit with a coworker. I just get to use whatever he isn't using. No big deal. I'm the new guy. I'm given a task to clear an area and it is really bad. Now this is something that could be done in a day with a big machine, which we had many of. I ask how I should go about it and I'm told use a shovel. Oh, okay. So I spend weeks slaving away on a project I know I could have done in a day with a machine. Woody vines, agapanthus, all sorts of bad plants. And I still have to focus on my regular maintenance duties. Eventually I get flack for taking so long. I don't have my own tools to use and I use what I can. Boss decides he will go out with me, all while lecturing me about how it shouldn't take this long, and with his 22 years of experience he knows best. Fine, fair enough, show me with a shovel. He takes 2 swings of the shovel and goes and gets the big tractor-like machine to pull everything up. Around this time I'd had enough. I put in my 2 weeks and they took my tools and gave my cart away to the new guys. So I'm still working away on this, but I have to walk several loads of tools all the way across campus to get there. Weeks go by and I get more flack for not being found in the area and tell my boss I'm on my way to take my break. He says he'd been there waiting for me a break's worth and I should be there by now. I remind him the time it takes me to walk to the break room. 20 minutes does not count as my break. Nor does carrying my tools on multiple trips. This goes on, and last week he decides to put me on cleaning the bleachers before the first baseball game. Sunflower and peanut shells are everywhere. He gives me a little 6-inch broom that doesn't even stand to my waist. I ask if I can blow everything in one direction then sweep it up. No. The baseball coach apparently doesn't like that. At the end of the day he fined me and is like, this is all you have done? I tell him again I use the tools and instruction I am given.